back in 2001 in Silicon Valley, we built this network of philanthropists who were committed to international causes. And while it started, the adjective global referred initially to their giving, it soon referred to the giver. As folks joined the Global Philanthropy Forum from Latin America, from Africa, from Europe, from Asia, and we became a network of learners. And while the term philanthropy, the noun philanthropy, referred initially to grant making, very quickly it became apparent that what we were focused on is all private means of financing the social good. So impact investing, for example, was a part of the Global Philanthropy Forum from the start. The initial members in Silicon Valley were both the architects and the beneficiaries of the information age, which drove the process of globalization. And they wanted to see its benefits much more equitably shared, and that was their goal. Now, if you flash forward to the year 2012, Ndidi, I think that's about when it started, a very similar set of phenomena was happening here in Africa. 27 of the 30 largest economies were growing at a breakneck pace. And although some of it was because there was the global demand for commodities, for the most part, that growth was due to really smart choices made, decisions to open economies, decisions to connect economies, and create tremendous wealth in the process. And private actors were starting companies or led companies in fields as diverse as telecommunications and construction and commercial banking or fashion. And so we were seeing that kind of extraordinary growth here, wealth being created, but needs continuing to be present. And even folks who'd been in business all their lives, like Manu Chandra, or Aliko Dangote, or Strive and Sisi Masiwa, even those who had been in business for a long time, they were turning their attention with equal commitment, I should say, to strategic philanthropy. And so it was back then, around 2012, that two philanthropists who were part of the Global Philanthropy Forum approached us and asked that the model be replicated here in Africa. And it was, of course, not a tough sell. But what was important here was to make sure that there was an exceptional leader, the kind of leader that has that drive that startups need to have to help us in the proof of concept phase. And you kind of know the type. It's that kind of person to whom you just plain can't say no, or the kind of person who, whether it's 3 p.m. or 3 a.m., there's equal urgency, and the person who is not only inventive but profoundly determined. That's where Ndidi Nwuneli comes in. She's a remarkable leader. To that I can attest from the firsthand experience. And she's worked to build the African Philanthropy Forum to the point that it's well beyond proof of concept, that it's to the point of it being its own organization with its own leadership, its own board, its own financing, that it truly be, as was the initial goal, Africa managed, Africa governed, Africa financed by and large. And so while, of course, it'll stay an affiliate of the Global Philanthropy Forum, that is not what defines it by any stretch of the imagination. And I was thinking last night, what are the words that define the African Philanthropy Forum in my mind's eye? And it's very much the words that define Africa in my mind's eye. And the first is abundance. And by abundance, I'm not referring to what's underground or what's in bank accounts. I'm referring to the extraordinary talent, the abundance of talent that exists here in Africa. The second word is generosity. It very much characterizes the African Philanthropy Forum and Africa itself. It's unmatched. The generosity of every African society is unmatched elsewhere. And what's exciting now is that what you're seeing is people harnessing that generosity to broader social goals, to systemic change. So we're seeing folks who, over the years, continue, when they think about their own investing, they're thinking about investing where they made their wealth, When they think about their own philanthropy, they think about giving where they made their wealth. And when they think about volunteerism, it's where they made their wealth. And finally, when they think about where to exercise their policy voice, because they all have a policy voice, it's where they made their wealth. The third word I'd say I'd turn to is ingenuity. I am absolutely persuaded, in my bones, that the next wave of social innovation, the next wave of philanthropic innovation, that wave of innovation is coming and will come from Africa. This is where invention is happening every day, where need and opportunity keep coming together. And not only will Africa soon meet its own development needs, it will do so much more for so much a wider world. So you can see why, given how ambitious we are, given how large the opportunity is, you can see why what was important to us, first and foremost, was to find a leader who could help during this process, help during the startup and proof of concept phase, to bring this African Philanthropy Forum from a kind of gleam in the eyes of a few wonderful, far-sighted philanthropists, a gleam in the eyes of those who supported us, be it Higher Life, be it Dangote Foundation, be it the Tony Alumelu Foundation, be it USAID or MasterCard Foundation or Rockefeller Foundation, a gleam in the eyes of a handful of people and generous supporters, now to something very real. And so I turn to Ndidi.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please first join me in thanking Jane Wales for her vision, her passion, and her courage. Please give her a round of applause. There are few women like Jane Wales, and when I met her, I had heard about her years before, but I was just blown away by her vision for the GPF, but also for the APF, and the courage and the tenacity to see it through. And there are not many women who combine all those three qualities together. So thank you, Jane, for all that you've done to get us to this point. And thank you to Susie and Olivia and Megan and Jared and the APF and GPF team. I can stand here as an individual, but I'm really standing on the shoulders of giants who have worked diligently to get us here. So please give them a round of applause, too. In Africa, we like to clap for people. We like to do other things, make noises and things, but I'll leave it at clapping. Okay, so I wanted to thank you for making the time to come here from many, many parts of the world. Some of you traveled for 20 hours, 30 hours, and passed through many, many airports. And we don't take it for granted because it was a sacrifice on your part. And I can assure you that it will be a very, very good use of your time. I'm a social entrepreneur from Nigeria. So this journey is very, very personal to me. Because as I sit in Lagos and contemplate my city with infrastructure for 3 million, our population is going to be 50 million in Lagos by 2050. So you can imagine where the theme, taking big bets and bold steps, comes from. Africa's population is estimated to get to 2.4 billion by 2050, and 4.8 by the turn of the century. So you can imagine the needs. Now, what is exciting is that we have great ideas percolating, the innovation that Jane talked about, the ingenuity, the passion. But unless we take big bets and bold steps, we're not going to see the type of transformation required. And as an African, I'm tired of the Africa Rising story. I want to see it on a daily basis. And I think many of you in this room share my passion, share the sense of urgency, and I think philanthropists are so important to that story because philanthropists can take risks, they can influence, they can shape policy because they're independent, they have the resources, and they have the drive. So what we want to do today and over the next 2 days is really put our heads together to think about what it takes to unleash the philanthropic energy to see the big bets and bold steps we need on this continent. We're going to be talking about how to do it in governance, in energy and agriculture, nutrition, in the arts, in youth employment and entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about the pivotal role of the diaspora, and I'm so delighted to see Africans diasporas represented here. And we're also going to be talking about the power of partnerships. And then we're going to end the day looking at toolkits, because all of us need to be empowered and equipped in the work we're doing. So we're going to be looking at the nuts and bolts of venture philanthropy, building strong and effective family foundations and corporate foundations. Thank you to all the speakers and all the panelists who have worked diligently to get us here as well. I know all of you have so much to share. I have 3 requests for you. Number 1, please be open. Open to learn, open to be inspired, and open to challenge. The second is please connect. I see you've already started connecting, but that's one of the things APF does very well. We're connecting across the world, we're connecting across countries, and we're connecting across sectors. And finally, please have fun. Some of you already got started having fun last night. I saw some of you shaking and directing the band, and I hope to see a lot more of you having fun, because we work so hard. The problems are often daunting, and sometimes we need to let our hair down and come back to our daily lives refreshed and rejuvenated. So I'm looking forward to an exciting 2 days, and I know that this is just going to be the beginning of many, many more high-impact interventions that we're going to be able to launch together as we take big bets and bold steps.